Hey, welcome back, everybody. Happy Thursday. Hopefully, we're having an all right day out there, and we are still watching the potential for some sort of storm system to kind of end out hurricane season with one last hurrah down into the Caribbean. And this storm would have the potential to bring impacts to many people if it does form. And that's really the big question, if it does form. Now, one of our models is still very on board with the idea of it forming. The other models are still not quite there yet, but we're getting to that point in time now where we're really going to kind of find out as we're within a week or so of potential development, who is right and who is wrong. And that'll be a big discussion in today's video. Now, we're also going to talk about this big time pattern change on the way, also about a week from now. So as things are quiet right now, I think, 7-8 days from right now, we're going to have much more to kind of look at on the current satellite imagery. But we can go ahead and start talking about these changes coming on down the pipeline really right now, as we do have some confidence in a lot of our models for at least that pattern change over the lower 48 with the potential of more stormy pattern, I guess is probably the best way to word it. All right, folks, if you haven't already subscribed, please do so. Like the video, hit that bell for the latest notifications. It's a great way to stay up to date, especially as we get further into winter. And we do expect more of these big time mid-latitude cyclones with snow potential and severe weather potential here coming on down the pipeline. Comment, let me know where you're watching from, and let me know if you have any cool weekend plans coming up or any exciting Halloween plans. Love to always hear what you folks are up to. All right, let's go ahead and dive on into things here, starting with current satellite imagery. And we're going to kind of zoom things out. We're going to kill two birds with one stone here, which now that I think about it is a terrible expression. But either way, that's the expression I'm going to use. So we're going to talk about the lower 48 and the tropics all at once here. And really the main thing that you're noticing probably on your screen is right here in the center. This is former tropical storm and I guess former hurricane Oscar that is now a big time mid-latitude cyclone. And this is going to clip you folks into Newfoundland really starting as early as today and then through the coming days. Again, you'll notice this is a pretty big storm with well-defined fronts on it. Kind of has that comma look to it, indicating a pretty mature mid-latitude cyclone. So that's kind of the big thing you're seeing on satellite. You're also seeing some unsettled weather into the northern U.S. That is a storm system that is forming that is going to eventually bring a shot of cold air, or at least cooler air, through the eastern half of the country with some cold air damming early next week. Other than that, I mean, really not much happening. You'll notice right here at the bottom of the screen here close to me, this is Major Hurricane Christy, a Category 4 storm. That was actually once Nadine in the Atlantic and then crossed over and became a major hurricane in the Pacific there. So definitely interesting to see that. But yeah, that's kind of what we're seeing current condition-wise. Now, latest from the National Hurricane Center, still not expecting any tropical cyclone development over the next week. But I'll tell you, I think if the models continue and kind of jump on board with the GFS, we'll definitely see an area added potentially as early as later today or tomorrow. If not then over the weekend, we will likely see an area added down here into the Caribbean, specifically the Western Caribbean. And I can tell you, I think a lot of times there's misconceptions here that, the experts maybe aren't quite tracking it whenever there's not an area and the model shows something. That is absolutely not the case, I can guarantee you. That just means they're waiting for more confidence from the models instead of a singular model before kind of, issuing those areas of concern. Okay. I do want to briefly touch on that big mid-latitude cyclone, former Oscar, now just whatever you want to call it. I guess we can call it post-tropical cyclone Oscar if you want, although even then that's not what it is. But this big area of low pressure. Again, I am expecting impacts into extreme eastern Canada. You folks in Nova Scotia, really a glancing blow with this one. If you're all the way up here on the extreme kind of northeastern section of the island, then definitely you'll get some impacts. But most of the impacts here are going to be felt into Newfoundland starting this evening. This is 8 o'clock Eastern time in the United States, so you might be another hour ahead of this out in Newfoundland. I'm not entirely sure. Let me know definitely in the comments. That would be cool to know. But either way, overnight tonight, that heavy rain begins to work on in through much of the island. And you'll notice, yeah, it's going to be heavy at times. Winds are going to be breezy, probably gusting up near tropical storm strength at times. With, again, pretty heavy rainfall rates. Unfortunately, for you folks who are snow lovers, No cold air in place with this one, so just a really rainy, windy, kind of raw afternoon tomorrow, even into tomorrow evening, and then into the overnight, continuing that trend through the island before finally clearing out a little bit through the morning hours of Saturday, and then by Saturday afternoon, much nicer conditions, although still breezy probably. And then that sets up shop for another storm system to work on and for you folks later on into the week. But we're really just going to talk about that first one here. So yeah, definitely looks to be active for you folks out that way. All right, so latest from the Climate Prediction Center here, getting back to the Caribbean area, and they're showing something for sure. So like I talked about, the experts at the Climate Prediction Center and the National Hurricane Center, they are not ignoring this by any means. In fact, I read one of their briefings. They talked about it pretty in depth. And yeah, again, there are favorable conditions here into the Caribbean for development. We do have a favorable MJO phase bringing some divergence aloft over this area, meaning it's easier for storms to form. We do still have very warm waters into the Caribbean, and there could be a general lack of shear and a area of more moist air. So obviously you have those ingredients. And again, like I said, the ocean temperatures are not a problem here at all. We are seeing temperatures still well up in and around 30 degrees Celsius. That's up near 80, 85, even higher than that degrees Fahrenheit, which is more than conducive enough for tropical development. And even if something down here into the Caribbean got out of the Caribbean, got out towards the Bahamas or up towards Florida here, still warm ocean temperatures over these areas. And then obviously the Gulf Stream is still open for business as well. So yeah, definitely ocean temperatures are not a concern. You might think, it's getting later in the year, it's fall. I mean, heck, it's almost November. You might think the ocean temperatures would be a problem, but no, not really. If anything is going to inhibit this, probably going to be more of a wind shear and dry air scenario. But let's go ahead and take a look at some model guidance. We'll start with the good old GFS model. This is the one that has really been spinning this area up for a while. Why the other models have been either not on board or in some cases maybe playing catch up a little bit. But again, we're really going to find out over the next couple of days through the weekend whether the GFS is onto something or if maybe this was just another phantom storm in the long run. But I will say the GFS has done pretty well this year. It's been pretty impressive even in the long run. Even storms that everyone, including myself, thought were kind of crazy. For example, Nadine a couple weeks ago, the GFS was showing that well in advance while no other models were. The only difference was the GFS had a much stronger storm while Nadine ended up being a tad bit, or not even a tad bit, a good bit weaker than the GFS had showed. But it did kind of sniff out that cyclogenesis when the other models weren't down here into the Caribbean. So let's take a look at the GFS and move this ahead in time. All right, this is Wednesday afternoon, October 30th, Halloween Eve, if you will. And you'll notice low pressure getting its act together. We're getting plenty of thunderstorm activity over that warm ocean there down just to the south west of Jamaica. And we are getting pressures falling down and around 1,000 millibars. After that, continuing to deepen and continuing to strengthen through Halloween itself. This is October 31st, and this is, again, only a week from right now. The GFS has a tropical storm, borderline a hurricane, impacting the island of Jamaica, again, in 7 days. So this is why we really need to start paying attention here. We need to really find out, is this something that's going to happen or not so much? Now the GFS continues to strengthen the storm, again has favorable upper level winds, favorable moisture content, and still very warm ocean temperatures, and gets a major hurricane near the southern coast of Cuba in about 10 days from now, and then after that tries to pull it into the Gulf up towards Florida just past 10 days. Now, having a strong storm system down here later on in the hurricane season is not unheard of. Hurricane Sandy, Hurricane Matthew, plenty of other hurricanes have been down here into late October. But what would be unprecedented about this is a hurricane landfall in November. It is very rare. I think there's only maybe 5 on record in the United States during the month of November. Now, albeit most of those happened in the state of Florida, so that would track here climatologically speaking. But still would be a very rare event. Now, does that mean this can't happen? No. Hurricane Helene, that was a very rare rainfall event. That happened. Hurricane Debbie, that was a very rare rainfall event. That happened. Hurricane Beryl, Category 5 in July, that was very rare. That happened. So yeah, it's definitely not something that you can write off just because climatologically it says it is unlikely. That is one thing we have definitely learned so far this hurricane season. So yeah, that's the GFS model. Let's take a look at some other model guidance. This is the European. We'll move this ahead into time, and you'll notice I'm going out to, we'll go Halloween day here. Where's the storm? Where's the storm that the GFS showed? Well, it's not there. We do, again, still have, general lower pressures down here for sure. We have a large area of 1,008 millibars of pressure. But again, nothing tight, nothing enclosed. Now, at the very end of the run, the European tries to close something up. But this is well delayed from the GFS. This is probably 4 or 5 days later on. And at this point, the GFS already had a storm getting up near Florida, while the European is just now developing something down here near Jamaica. So two very different scenarios, both showing the general idea of spin, but how they develop that very different. One a very impactful hurricane, the other just kind of a continuation of the Central American gyre. All right, the Euro AI model here, kind of another model that is new on the scene here. It has done relatively well this year on certain storms, not so much on other storms. But it's kind of a bit of an in-between, I'd say, between the two. It does develop a storm system like the GFS and gets it a little bit stronger like the GFS, but is much more delayed, kind of like the European. So again, I'll back this up to Halloween. And again, you'll notice not really much going on, maybe a little bit of something down there into the far southwestern Caribbean, but doesn't really develop a storm until 10 plus days out. And at that point, I mean, we're really talking la la land. Anything could happen, past 10 days. So again, still pretty different, but one thing I love to look at in these scenarios are the ensembles. And if you're new to the channel, I'll go ahead and quickly explain what ensembles are. If you're a returning viewer, then you're probably like, Gerald, I hear this all the time. Please just show them. But the ensemble members are basically, imagine a bunch of model runs that come together to make one model run. So the GFS is not just one random model that runs. There's 20 or so members of the GFS, or ensembles as we call them, that oftentimes are used to help really forecast probabilities. And that's what we're going to use them for here. What is the probability of a storm actually forming? Is it just the GFS going crazy, or does it have support from kind of other models within? And I'll tell you, it has a lot of support. So here we go. This is, again, Halloween afternoon. You'll notice all this orange showing up. This is lower pressure, stronger vorticity that the ensembles are forecasting. Every little kind of red dot you see here, or circle, these are all individual members kind of depicting where they think the area of low pressure will be, or area of lowest pressure. And yeah, basically all of them make a storm here. They form it, and then this is getting just past Halloween into the beginning of November. Again, big time consensus on some sort of storm. Most of these are hurricane near the island of Jamaica, and then moving generally northward. Now, once we get past that point, this is 10 days out from right now. Again, still a strong signal near Jamaica and Cuba. After that, again, goes a little bit haywire on the track, but you get the idea. A lot of members forming a storm system here, and moving it generally northward into areas that would create impacts to land. So definitely something to watch there. The European and its ensemble members, well, I will say this is probably a slight uptick from yesterday when we looked, but still a pretty weak signal, but still a signal of sorts down here showing, again, the same idea. All these L's are ensemble members, and a lot of members do show some sort of low pressure developing. And again, I would definitely say an uptick from yesterday's run, but just not off the charts, kind of like the GFS is. All right, so that's the latest on the tropics. Again, just keep your eyes posted to it. Any impacts to land would probably still be a week or plus away, especially impacts in the United States would probably be 10 days or so away. But we do need to watch it. We need to stay focused on that, and I say stay focused. We need to keep an eye on it and just kind of continue to monitor that. All right, what's happening elsewhere in the United States? Again, we looked at satellite. Well, in the east, we cannot buy a drop of rain to save our lives, and those of you here east of the Mississippi specifically will know what I mean. In fact, all of these kind of beige boxes you're seeing along the I-95 corridor, and these red boxes, or kind of purplish, pinkish, whatever you want to call that, these are for fire weather or fire danger risks, as it has been very dry. The wind has been kicking up a little bit. And we are running the threat of some wildfires breaking out here. So anyone from Eastern Virginia up the I-95 corridor, again, into Pennsylvania, Philly, New York City, Trenton, Boston, Hartford, again, all these big population centers need to be careful, or in fact, just don't burn anything if you don't have to. Again, we've become very dry. In fact, I think Philadelphia hasn't had a drop of rain so far this month, and you might go all month without it. And if that's the case, that would break a record for the first time there's ever been an entire calendar month of no rain in the city. I believe is the statistic I saw there. So yeah, getting dangerously dry across the east. Out west, you'll notice again, we are getting a storm system here into the northern plains, which obviously good for those folks. You don't want to see a drought anywhere, so anytime we can get rain anywhere, that is good as long as it's not going to bring flooding. But this, again, is kind of the main storyline, I would say, in the near term in the weather department. And then after that, we kind of get a more active pattern to set up shop. And that's kind of what we'll talk about here in just a moment. But discussing this first pattern, again, I showed that rain here all kind of up into this region. We're getting that due to a bit of a trough here. We did get a little bit more diffluence into the region yesterday, so I backed this up a little bit. This was, actually, no, this is today, my bad. Yeah, so perfect. This lines up even better. So again, this afternoon, you'll see kind of how these isobars spread out a little bit. This is some diffluence aloft. Or just an area of kind of, air that is separating above us, and that creates a void, and then area has to collide at the surface. That rises, rising motion, precipitation, so on and so forth. So again, that's kind of why we're seeing what we're seeing out there right now. But that kind of initial trough that we're seeing that is bringing that diffluence is going to flatten out a little bit, become a bit more zonal in nature. Now, it'll maintain itself slightly into tomorrow as well. You'll notice even here a little bit of some kinking with this trough and some diffluence, which will likely continue to bring some precipitation, but the core of the jet stream well to the north here. So not a whole bunch of upper level support for any type of big time cyclogenesis or some sort of strong low pressure system in the near term and through the weekend, but we do get that jet stream to kind of buckle down a little bit and dip a bit further south over New York and into the northeast by this weekend, even a little bit of a jet streak showing up here. Again, I'm not expecting any kind of big storm system. This is very positively tilted in nature. And even with this jet streak, they could kind of try to help bring a little bit of extra lift. Not expecting any real precipitation over the weekend here in the northeast. Now, let me rephrase that. There will be some precipitation, but I'm not expecting any kind of big storm system. More importantly, can I kind of get a cool down out of that? And then that sets the stage for next week, which could be very interesting in its own right. All right, near term over the west, this afternoon, again, some showers through the Dakotas. Again, we do have a low pressure system, not super strong, but definitely lower pressure, bringing some of that rain. Other than that, I mean, not really anything happened out here in the west this afternoon. Overnight tonight, nothing happening. Tomorrow afternoon, not really anything. You do see our next storm system beginning to work in by Friday overnight and Saturday into the Pacific Northwest. But now till then, I mean, things remain, again, really quiet from the Rockies to the West Coast. Now taking a look at the East Coast, a little bit different, a little bit more active. Again, getting into this afternoon, we do have this area of low pressure. You'll notice those showers working through the Dakotas, Minnesota. Could even see kind of a quick burst of some storm activity as we do get some afternoon convection from Kansas back up into Missouri, Iowa. I doubt anything becomes really severe out of this. Maybe some rumbles of thunder, definitely possible. But in terms of tornadoes or strong winds or hail, not expecting really any of that through those regions. And then to the north, probably really just a chilly rain through Iowa, through Wisconsin, the UP of Michigan, and into portions of Minnesota. But this whole kind of low pressure system continues to march east overnight tonight, getting some rain through Chicago, into Detroit by tomorrow morning, seeing some showers. And again, just a pretty good, area of rain, but then begins to dry up pretty quickly. And by the time we get to Friday afternoon, just scattered showers from the Ohio River Valley down near Paducah up into Canada. Not any really big, vigorous line of storms, just kind of some sprinkles, some quick light showers. Nothing that's really going to fix any sort of drought by any means. Now, will it help? Again, it will. You folks in Kentucky, Ohio, and West Virginia, I know especially need some rain. You'll get probably maybe a little bit out of this for sure. Some showers Friday afternoon and overnight. Philly, maybe you get a shower out of this. Maybe you finally save that potential for no rain all month. We'll see by the evening of Friday and into Saturday as this front kind of swings on through. And I'll kind of show this even further into the afternoon Saturday. Again, you'll notice some showers through the northeast, just not a lot though, folks. I mean, you could pick up maybe a 1/10 of an inch of rain if you're lucky, maybe a 1/4 of an inch here and there. But this is not going to be enough to really save us from that fire danger risk. again, it'll help, don't get me wrong, but not going to be enough to really break the bank. Now, after that, high pressure moves back in. That dry air moves back in, cooler air moves back in, and we'll have to see maybe a couple of showers try to form on the southern edge of this. We could get a little bit of onshore flow combined with a bit of a backdoor cold front that could lead to just maybe a couple showers popping up. But again, nothing that's going to break the bank here or really save us by any means from the drought conditions we're seeing as we get into early next week. Again, that high pressure kind of really locking in and beginning to see some pretty impressive cold air damming here as this high pressure definitely funnels in some of this cooler, drier air down the spine of the Appalachia chain. All right, that is that temperature-wise this afternoon. Cooler than average into the Pacific Northwest, basically above average everywhere else. But you will notice by the time we get into this evening and into tomorrow, we are feeling kind of that first shot of cooler air. We had a small front move through yesterday and moving through today into the northeast. Again, you'll see some more below average temperatures, nothing crazy cold by any means, but back to, kind of back closer to what we should be this time of year. And then we get into this weekend and we get that bigger shot of cooler, drier air, probably much more chilly, I would say, getting more to that 10 to 15 degree below average temperatures into New England, and then getting back down near average into the mid-Atlantic as some of that cold air damming works through. But after that, a big ridge moves back in, and this sets the stage for next week, which we're expecting kind of this big old clash of air masses. Out west, you'll notice well below average temperatures, into the plains and into the east, well above average temperatures. In between that, the jet stream is going to go kind of crazy in here due to this big temperature gradient, and we could see a couple storm systems form off of that and bring the potential for some severe weather back into the forecast and some rainfall as well. So here we go, same time frame. I mean, basically same map, different title to it, but big trough and cold air out west, big ridge and warm air out east, and kind of this in-between zone, again, is where we are expecting that jet stream to really pick up into speed and likely getting enough divergence that we do see some cyclogenesis out of it and some positive cyclonic vorticity out of it. So, okay, here we go. Next week. This is Monday. Again, things remain pretty quiet, but you'll notice things picking up a little bit. Actually, let me back this up just a little bit. I talked about that storm system in the Pacific Northwest starting Saturday. There it is. Heavy mountain snow, valley rain. That's Saturday into Sunday afternoon here, and then into Monday. That one swings up into Canada, isn't much of a problem, but after that, new areas of low pressure begin to form, and you'll notice, look at how sharp these isobars are into this region. This is that clashing air mass again. Could be pretty windy, I think, to start next week into that region. I kind of have shaded here. I'll box it off for you as well. So do need to watch for a enhanced fire risk again next week through there before any kind of rain arrives. As again, that wind is really picking up, but I am expecting a couple of storm systems to form next week. Here's one of them. You'll notice, again, pretty strong even. This is getting into next Tuesday and Wednesday, heavy mountain snow in the Rockies, some of that even trying to break containment of the Rockies and get into western Nebraska and western South Dakota with some heavy rain with that one. And you'll even notice a bit of a cold front here on the backside. So, going to try to erode this ridge a little bit, bring some cooler air to some folks into the plains. But then that's just one storm system. Then another storm system after that. Again, you'll notice just kind of the theme in the I would say 5 to 10 day range is storm system after storm system into the plains. And we could see impacts from these as well, including severe weather. This is kind of the severe weather ingredients, noticing not a huge uptick, but definitely an uptick during the middle of next week through the southern plains, Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas. I'm talking to you. Again, we'll have to, severe weather is tough to forecast as far out, but the ingredients are better aligning for, I think, at least a couple of days of maybe a couple marginal risks, maybe even a slight risk here or there as these storm systems form. And that hangs around there for a while into next week as, again, we get storm system after storm system to work on through. Now, total QPF, this is now through, let me bring this into this weekend. This is Monday afternoon into Tuesday. Again, the only rain now through then will be out in the Pacific Northwest, that storm system we talked about, and then into the Midwest with kind of that area of storminess or showers that we're seeing today and tomorrow. But after we get through next week, you'll notice a big uptick during the middle of next week and into the end of next week in rainfall projections through the plains. Again, all these storm systems eventually are going to add up in the rainfall department, and that'll definitely be good for you folks out through Kansas, Missouri, into the Ozarks of Arkansas, Oklahoma, even back up into the Midwest again. But look at us here in the east and the southeast. I mean, from Maine all the way down through Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, into the Carolinas. I mean, still not a drop of rain showing up in the 10-day time frame. And obviously, that's not really what you want to see. Snowfall-wise, again, the only real snow I'm seeing of significance in the next 10 days is into the Rockies. I will mention, though, we will have to watch maybe some that can break containment of the Rockies. I do think western Nebraska, western South Dakota, out through the Badlands there definitely could pick up on some snow for sure with this pattern, and maybe even some snow into the higher elevations of New Hampshire and Vermont, kind of up towards the Canadian border there with that front this weekend, maybe some back-end snow. But other than that, really not expecting a lot of snowfall out of this setup. Now we take a look at the temperature and kind of drought conditions here. Again, unfortunately, folks, more of the same in the 6 to 10 day range. A steamy Halloween, a steamy start to November as well. Well above average chance of above average temperatures here east of the Rockies, and then obviously cool west of the Rockies. Kind of just another way of showing you the maps I just showed you. Cool out west, warm in the east. That's the trend here for the medium and long run. And unfortunately, rainfall-wise, again, picking up into the plains. But some of the folks that need it the most here through the Northeast, the Mid-Atlantic, and the Southeast, high likelihood that we're still below average in the precipitation department here by the start of November. So we're gonna have to really start doing some rain dances or something. I don't know what it's gonna take to break the pattern here, but hopefully, if we're lucky, this warm and dry conditions at the start of November will mean maybe by Thanksgiving and Christmas time, we'll flip the pattern and maybe we'll have some snow chances in the east. At least that's what my fingers are crossed and hoping for here into the long run. Alrighty, folks. Well, that's all I got for you on this Thursday. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, let me know in the comments. Like the video and subscribe if you haven't already. Alrighty, have a wonderful rest of your day. Stay safe out there, and I'll see you all tomorrow.